I got home late due to a work project. Emma was already asleep, the light from her laptop casting a soft glow over our bedroom. She must have nodded off mid-email, like she sometimes did. I was going to close it, plug it in. Nothing more. But a message popped up. Just a name, Christopher. No last name. No photo. Just him. The preview line read: "Last night was perfect. I can still feel you." I stared at the screen, heartbeat steady but loud in my ears. I clicked the message. Another. And another. The thread was intimate, filled with cryptic tenderness. Inside jokes I didn't understand. Phrases like "your hands," "that thing you whispered," "your warmth." Photos followed, but they were partial, intentional. A strong forearm resting against white sheets. The edge of a smile, half-cropped. A bare chest reflected in the mirror behind her. No face. No full image. Just pieces. She responded in kind, emojis, selfies that I'd never seen before. Lingerie I didn't recognize. Captions like "you always bring this out of me." I stared at the screen long enough for it to go dim. There was no "I love you," no concrete admission. But there didn't need to be. I didn't wake her. I walked into the kitchen, sat at the table where we used to share morning coffee, and just listened to the hum of the fridge. The name Christopher looped in my mind. It meant nothing. No friend, no coworker, no mutual contact. Just a ghost with a name. The kind of ghost that leaves fingerprints on your life without ever showing its face. I had to know who he was. Not just because I was jealous, or angry, but because he knew her in ways I didn't anymore. The next few days, I went quiet. I watched. I paid attention. Emma smiled more, wore perfume again, kept her phone closer than usual. And in my spare moments, I searched. Christopher. No last name. No photos. Just arms and half smiles and stolen glances behind a locked screen. But I'd find him. Eventually, I always do. For days, I lived with the name, Christopher. It gnawed at the edges of my mind. I scrolled through every contact, every message Emma had ever mentioned. No Christophers. No new friends. No one in our shared life by that name. It felt like chasing a shadow. Until I overheard something. Just a passing joke at the office, during lunch. "Hey, John Christopher, slow down before you kill the copier again." Laughter. John grinned, playfully defensive. You use a guy's middle name once and it haunts you for life. The air in my lungs turned thick. My fingers tightened around my coffee cup until it creaked. Christopher. My friend. My coworker. John. We'd worked side by side for 2 years. Late nights. Big deadlines. Countless beers after product launches. He was reliable. Kind. Emma always said he was charming. Friendly. Harmless. I thought about the company party a few months back. The one where Emma wore that green dress. The one where I had one too many, and John offered to call her a car while I stayed to clean up. I thanked him. Told him he was a good man. Apparently, he drove her home himself. The images on her laptop came back to me, his arms, his chest. Familiar now. I'd seen him in short sleeves. At the gym. In photos from our hiking trip. I hadn't recognized him. Because I never imagined him. He was always nice to me. Too nice. That night, I went home and watched Emma from across the kitchen. She made pasta, humming softly. Like nothing had changed. Like we were still real. But I knew now. And I didn't know which betrayal hurt more, hers, or his. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't cry. I didn't drink. I just planned. John and I were scheduled to lead the Monday strategy session for our cross-departmental project. A big deal. 30 people. Directors. Cameras. It was supposed to be our pitch. But I had a different presentation in mind. Sunday night, I made a new slide deck. Clean. Simple. Brutal. I walked into the boardroom 5 minutes early, calm, focused. John was already there, smiling like nothing had happened, sipping his overpriced coffee like he hadn't carved out a piece of my life and pissed on it. "Hey man," he said. "Ready to kill it?" I looked at him and smiled. "Oh, absolutely." People trickled in. Laptops opened. Phones silenced. The VP nodded at me to begin. I clicked next on the remote. Not the title slide. Not the agenda. Just a full-screen photo, a cropped image I'd pulled from Emma's laptop. Her in lingerie, in a hotel mirror, his hand unmistakably on her hip, his wedding band still on. A few confused murmurs. One gasp. John froze. I clicked again. Another image, his arm, bare, wrapped around her waist. Her caption below, from an email. "You make me feel more alive than he ever could." Someone at the table dropped their pen. I looked at John, still smiling. This, ladies and gentlemen, is what happens when you trust the wrong person with your time, your home, and your wife. John stood up, pale. "What the hell are you doing?" "Sit down," I said, cold and even. "You wanted to screw me behind my back. Now you can watch yourself do it from the front row." He stayed frozen, speechless. Cowardly. I turned to the room. This was supposed to be a presentation on synergy and transparency. So here's a real-world example of what happens when you don't have either. Silence. I'm done here. And he should be too. I shut the laptop, tucked it under my arm, and walked out. No one said a word. Let the fallout sort itself out. I already lost a wife. I wasn't about to lose my spine. I walked into the apartment just past 8 p.m. I knew she'd be there, of course she would. John must have called her the moment I walked out of the boardroom. No honor among thieves. Emma sat on the edge of the couch, eyes red, knees drawn up like a child waiting for punishment. The moment the door closed behind me, she stood. "Please," her voice cracked before she could finish. "Please, just let me explain." I dropped my laptop bag without looking at her. Walked into the kitchen. Turned on the tap. Let the water run until it was cold. "Explain what?" I said, calm. "Quiet. That you've been screwing someone who sits 3 feet from me every day? That you let me eat dinner with him, share drinks with him, defend him in meetings, while you were sleeping with him?" She stepped closer, hands shaking. "I didn't want it to happen." "But you let it," I snapped. "Again. And again. And again." She broke into sobs, the ugly kind. Chest heaving, mouth open, snot on sleeve sobs. But I'd already seen the worst of her. This was just the echo. "I didn't think you'd ever find out." "Of course you didn't," I said. "That was the whole point, wasn't it? You called him by his middle name like it was some romantic little alias. Christopher. You knew how close we were. You knew what it would do to me." "I made a mistake," she said, pleading. "Please, please, don't throw everything away over this. We can fix it. I'll do anything." I turned to face her then. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed her to see that the man she married wasn't standing in front of her anymore. "We didn't do this. You did. And now you want to build a future out of the ashes of what you burned?" She fell to her knees, sobbing into her hands. "Please. Please don't hate me." I stared at her for a long, quiet moment. Then I stepped around her and opened the hall closet. "Get your things," I said. "The ones you didn't already pack. I don't care where you go, but you're not staying here tonight." Her face twisted. "You can't just throw me out like this. You can't. You threw yourself out the moment you cheated," I said. My voice was low, level, not even angry anymore. Just done. She didn't argue again. She packed in silence, sobs reduced to sniffles and shuffling. I sat at the kitchen table and watched the wall. 10 minutes later, the door closed behind her. The apartment was quiet again. But not peaceful. Not yet. I stayed home the next day. Not because I needed rest, but because I couldn't stand the idea of walking into that building, hearing whispers, feeling eyes on me, not for what I did, but for why I had to do it. I didn't answer emails. I didn't check messages. I just sat in the quiet of the apartment and let the numbness take hold. I thought about changing the locks. But technically, her name was still on the lease. Legally, it was still her place too. Morally? That was a different story. The apartment smelled like her, perfume still clinging to the cushions, her shampoo lingering in the bathroom. I should have been packing her things, boxing up memories like clutter. Instead, I just waited. And then, like I knew she would, she came back. It was early evening when I heard the key turn. I didn't move. Just sat on the couch, staring out the window, watching the orange spill of sunset over the buildings. The door creaked open. "Please," she said, her voice already shaking. "Don't make me leave again." I didn't say anything. She stepped inside slowly, as if the air itself might collapse under her weight. Her eyes were puffy. Her hair tied back. She looked like someone who hadn't slept since the meeting. "Good. I know you hate me," she whispered. "I don't blame you." She dropped her bag by the door and sank to the floor like her legs just gave out. "But I'm still your wife." I turned to face her finally. "No," I said. "You're someone I used to trust. Someone who made promises and then gutted them behind my back." She started crying again, full sobs now. It wasn't just some thrill, God, I don't even know what it was anymore. He made me feel something and I cut her off. "Don't tell me what he made you feel. I read the messages. I saw the photos. I already have that poison in my blood. I don't need you bleeding it into the air, too." She dragged herself forward on her knees, pathetic and desperate. "Just talk to me. Scream at me. Hate me. But don't pretend I don't exist." I looked at her like she was a stranger who just walked into my home and sat where she didn't belong. "You do exist," I said. "But not here. Not anymore." "I have nowhere to go," she whispered. "Not my problem." She flinched. For a while, we just sat in silence. Me on the couch. Her on the floor. Two people breathing in the ruins. And for the first time, I realized the worst part wasn't what she did. It's that I don't miss her anymore. I wasn't surprised when I heard John had resigned. After everything that happened, I knew it was coming. His sudden disappearance from the office only confirmed what I already suspected. He wasn't just running away from work, he was running from everything. From me. From the consequences of his actions. I kept my distance, avoided eye contact with anyone who might want to gossip. I didn't need to know his every move, I didn't care. What mattered was that he'd been forced to walk away. He couldn't face the fallout of what we'd done together, the lies, the betrayal. But then, things got worse for him. Much worse. I heard the rumors first. Whispered at work, scattered through the hallways like wildfire. His wife had filed for divorce. No one knew the details yet, but the whispers were clear. His infidelity had torn apart everything he'd built. His marriage, his reputation. It all came crashing down. I couldn't help but feel a certain sense of satisfaction. I'd already taken my revenge in 1,000 small ways, but this was beautiful. It was like watching a house of cards collapse, slow, methodical, inevitable. John's wife must have found out about the affair. It didn't take long for the truth to leak out. His actions had destroyed both our lives, but now, he was facing the consequences of betraying his wife too. I could only imagine the phone calls, the angry confrontations. The wife he had spent years building a life with, the one he swore to love and cherish, now had every reason to leave him. I couldn't feel sorry for him. I wouldn't. He'd earned every ounce of this pain. I heard he was staying with friends now. His reputation, already tarnished by the affair with my wife, was now in complete ruins. His world was collapsing in slow motion, piece by piece. I didn't reach out. I didn't need to. I had my victory. It was enough to know that he was feeling the same weight of destruction, the same loss. The same emptiness I had felt for months. It wasn't unexpected. But it still hit me like a slap in the face. The papers arrived the next morning. Emma had filed for divorce. She'd beaten me to it, as I'd half expected, half feared. She had plans, I was sure of it. Plans I wasn't privy to. Probably had some lawyer waiting in the wings, already knowing what to say to get her everything she wanted. And I couldn't let that happen. Not like this. Not after what she did. I knew the game now. And the rules were simple: make sure she feels the same way I do. Empty. Lost. Broken. The first step was taking control. I read through the papers slowly, eyes scanning for the small details, the things she'd tried to slip under my radar: joint accounts, shared assets, custody of the dog. She was already positioning herself, painting me as the villain, trying to grab every advantage she could. The audacity. After everything, she thought she could come out clean. The moment I hired my lawyer, I knew there was no going back. This wouldn't be some amicable split. This was war. And I wasn't going to let her waltz away from the wreckage she'd caused. I pulled every string I could. Every contact, every piece of leverage. The first thing I did was ensure that my legal team had all the information, everything. From the bank statements to Emma's emails to the pictures I'd found on her laptop. There wasn't a single stone left unturned. She thought she'd escaped all this by filing first, but I was about to show her how wrong she was. My lawyer, Alex, was ruthless. I paid him well, and in return, he knew how to handle people like Emma. Like John. Like anyone who thought they could walk all over me. The first thing we did was start the asset freeze. Nothing was moving until we figured out what we could take from her. All shared accounts were flagged, all properties secured. We started digging into her finances. I knew Emma liked to spend. Liked to splurge on designer clothes, travel, dinners. We made sure to trace every single purchase, tracking down receipts, hidden assets, even those small transactions she probably thought no one would notice. It was slow at first. But I wanted to be thorough. And the deeper we dug, the more cracks appeared in her story. The secret credit card accounts she'd hidden from me. The weekend trips with John, all on company credit. There was a paper trail, and I was going to use it. Then came the emails. Those intimate conversations between her and John? The ones she thought would stay locked away on her laptop? I made sure they weren't locked away for long. They were framed in a way that made it clear: this wasn't just an affair. This was calculated. She had betrayed me not only emotionally but financially. I got copies of the emails, but I didn't just keep them for myself. I gave them to the lawyer. Emma had to answer for every single word. I wanted to destroy her credibility, to make her appear like someone who would betray her partner for something as trivial as attention. We'd subpoenaed everything: her phone records, her laptop backups, social media conversations. Anything and everything she thought was safe. Then came the legal filings. Alex filed for temporary spousal support, calculated from the moment Emma started living apart from me, showing the imbalance in our assets and income. We started working on alimony projections, carefully designed to break her financially. Her lawyer would counteract, of course, but we were prepared to drag things out. Emma was early. I walked into the conference room, where she was sitting across from her lawyer. The air felt thick, both of us pretending this wasn't anything more than a transaction. But we both knew. The stakes were too high for pretense. She looked broken. Her hair was messy. Her suit didn't fit right, the sleeves too long. Her usual confidence was gone. It was like she was barely holding it together, and I reveled in it. Her lawyer spoke first. "We're here to discuss the terms of the divorce and work out a settlement." I looked at Emma, who was staring at the table, eyes avoiding mine. She hadn't said a word. Just like she hadn't fought for me when I needed her. Now she was trying to salvage what little she could. "I've made my intentions clear," I said calmly, my voice even. I'm not here for any kind of compromise. I'm not here to settle. I'm here to make sure she loses everything." Emma's head shot up. "What are you talking about?" she snapped, her voice shaking but angry. "You can't." "I can," I said, cutting her off. "And I will. This isn't about money. This isn't about us anymore. This is about making sure you never forget what you did." Her lawyer shifted, clearly uncomfortable. "Perhaps we should." "No," I said firmly. "You don't get to negotiate your way out of this. Not after the damage you caused." Emma's face flushed red, her hands gripping the edge of the table like she might throw herself at me. She opened her mouth to speak but stopped herself, probably calculating the consequences of whatever words she was about to say. The silence stretched between us like a thick rope. Her lawyer pushed some papers toward me. "We'll go through the terms, and I suggest you read carefully." I took the papers, but I didn't even glance at them. "Let me make something clear," I said, voice low. "We will drag this out. We will make sure every last shred of dignity is stripped from you. And the affair? Don't think I'm letting that go. I'm making sure everyone knows who you really are." I knew Emma wasn't just going to roll over. She would fight to hold on to her wealth, her assets, whatever she could. She'd spent years building her own little empire, and I needed to make sure it crumbled. The first step was to use her financial indiscretions against her. I had already seen the credit card statements, and I knew that Emma had been living beyond her means. I'd instructed my lawyer, Alex, to dig deeper, focusing specifically on the offshore accounts she had likely hidden, an elaborate safety net for her secret life. We subpoenaed every financial record we could get our hands on. Credit card transactions, joint accounts, her personal accounts, and the accounts I'd set up for both of us during our marriage. My guess was she had transferred funds at some point, probably when she realized she was going to get caught. But I wasn't letting her walk away unscathed. Every account was flagged, every deposit, and withdrawal under scrutiny. We didn't just focus on money either. Real estate was the next angle. Emma's name was on a property in the city, but I was certain there were hidden investments. I had Alex demand full disclosure on all of her assets. I wanted the hidden ones exposed. This wasn't going to be a quick settlement. I'd make sure the process dragged on long enough that Emma would have no choice but to surrender. While Emma and her lawyer worked on pushing for a quick resolution, I played a different game. Delays. My lawyer filed for a motion to extend the timeline for the divorce proceedings, citing the need for a comprehensive financial audit. Of course, this wasn't just about fairness, it was about exhausting her resources. Emma thought she could rush this through and walk away clean, but I knew better. Every delay was like a needle in her side. She would be forced to pay for lawyers longer, face increased pressure to settle quickly, and have to deal with the public scrutiny of a prolonged divorce. And as the case dragged on, the emotional toll would wear her down. The longer this process took, the more her chances of keeping any substantial assets diminished. The moment I found out about Emma's affair with John, I started quietly talking to her colleagues. No one at work knew the full extent of her betrayal, but I had my ways of getting information. My contacts within the company became my eyes and ears. Her peers had started to distance themselves from her already, but I wasn't going to let that be an easy escape. I'd learned that Emma was part of a leadership program designed to promote top talent. This was her career's golden ticket, the thing that would let her climb the corporate ladder and earn bonuses that would easily outpace what she could get from the divorce. I made sure her boss was fully aware of the situation. I didn't go in with guns blazing. I simply made sure they had all the facts, the affair, her involvement with John, the way her personal life had clouded her professional judgment. Emma's status at the company had already been in jeopardy, but now I was making sure it was publicly known that she couldn't be trusted with leadership. The day had arrived. We were set to meet one last time, in person, just the two of us. The lawyers had drawn up the final settlement agreement, but I wasn't going to let it end with just a signature. I wanted her to feel the weight of what she'd done, to face the repercussions of everything she'd torn apart. "I want to make something clear, Emma," I said, letting my voice drip with cold finality. "This isn't just about the money. This is about what you did to me. To us. You thought you could play me, run away with your little affair, but I made sure you would never get away with it." Her sobs quieted, and she looked up at me through tear-filled eyes. John's life is destroyed, too, I continued, my tone casual, as if I were stating a fact. I think he learned the hard way what happens when you betray me. And now you're learning, too. Emma's face paled further, and she shook her head, as if trying to deny what I was saying. You don't. I know everything, I interrupted, my voice colder than ever. Every conversation, every message. You think you can hide behind your lawyers or your crocodile tears, but I have the truth on my side. You've been exposed, Emma. The world knows who you really are now. Her lips trembled, and for a moment, I almost felt pity. But I pushed it aside. You'll leave here today with nothing. No reputation. No career. No dignity. And you'll have no one but yourself to blame. The silence stretched between us like a thick, suffocating fog. She couldn't speak. She couldn't fight back anymore. She had no words left. The legal battle ended quickly after that meeting. The settlement was final. Emma was forced to leave the house and move into a much smaller apartment, her career decimated, her reputation in ruins. The whispers at work, the rumors among friends, she had no chance of rebuilding from this. I walked away stronger, smarter, and free. My life was mine again. And nothing, would ever take that from me. Word got to me through a mutual colleague, one of those people who always pretends not to gossip but relishes every juicy update. Did you hear? She said over coffee, lowering her voice. Emma went to see John. Last week. I didn't say anything. Just let her keep talking. She looked rough. He opened the door, they talked for a bit, then it got heated. Real fast. Apparently, she had gone there hoping they could start fresh, now that both their marriages had crashed. She spun some romantic idea, two broken people rebuilding from the ashes. The problem was, John didn't see her as a phoenix. He saw her as the match that burned his life down. The story goes, he didn't even let her sit down. You think I want to be with you? He told her. After what happened? After what I lost? She tried to say they could rebuild. That maybe they were meant to be. That everything had happened for a reason. His answer? This wasn't fate. It was stupidity. And I'm done paying for it. Then he closed the door in her face. She stood outside for a while. Maybe cried. Maybe screamed. No one really knows. When I heard all this, I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No pity. Just a hollow acknowledgement that this is what betrayal breeds, a trail of wreckage, and people who can't recognize the fire until they're standing in the ruins. They deserved each other. In the worst ways. But even they couldn't stand each other anymore.